What's this? A video game to celebrate the 30th anniversary of PlayStation? A 3D platformer featuring cameos from different characters that have been a part of that legacy and has made PlayStation the powerhouse that it is today. But how did we get here? Team Asobi was formed in 2012 as part of Sony's Japan Studios, which, in case you didn't know,
I love them. They're terrific. Why did they close them down?
And their first project was called the Playroom, a pack-in game for the PS4 utilizing the PlayStation camera to play some fun augmented reality minigames. And unfortunately, I never played the Playroom because I never owned a PlayStation camera. When I got my PS4, I played Infamous instead, so yeah, that's my bad. In 2016, the Playroom got ported to PSVR, and perhaps this is a way for the team to come to grips with understanding this new hardware in preparation for a more full-on experience. Astro Bot Rescue Mission, a VR 3D platformer, and from every metric you can look at, was quite the success. Considered one of, if not the best PSVR games, with even some saying that it is the Mario 64 of VR, playing from the perspective of a giant robot controlling Astro Bot with a PS4 controller. And once again, I was unable to play this as I've never owned a VR headset. But even from the outside, it was not hard to see the level of talent that Team Asobi had, creating a fun experience, and maybe if Sony played their cards right, they might have a new mascot able to rival Mario. And with the new PlayStation console around the corner, it was time for Team Asobi to bring Astro Bot to a broader audience. Astro's Playroom was released as a pack-in game for the PS5, and don't worry guys, I actually played this one so I can talk about it. And from the get-go, when you fling Astro Bot out of the PS5 controller, you realize you're in for a treat. Firstly, the haptic feedback on the controller feels incredible. Getting to feel every step Astro takes is kind of amazing and adds to the overall experience. You arrive at the CPU Plaza, the hub of the game, and seeing all these little Astros hanging out is really adorable. From here, you are able to go to the 4 main levels of the game, being the Memory Meadow, the SSD Speedway, the Cooling Springs, and the GPU Jungle. All of this being presented as exploring the insides of the PS5. Each level has its very own distinctive tone and setting. Platforming through these levels feels like a blast, and even though it might not be the most challenging platformer in the world, it makes up for it in its atmosphere, vibes, and the music is so good. Each level also has a unique mechanic which adds some variety to the overall experience. Throughout each level, you will find Astro-botified versions of PlayStation characters, and hey, you should watch my Gravity Rush video! The main collectible of the game are pieces of hardware from PlayStation's past, some known and others downright obscure. Back in the hub world, you have a collection room, and it's really rewarding to see this room become more and more inhabited with these relics of the past. Once you have completed each stage, you unlock a secret final boss. After traveling to 1994, you fight the T-Rex from the old PS1 tech demo, and eventually he transforms into a new PS5 counterpart, and it really shows just how far gaming has come since the mid-90s. Astro's Playroom at first glance might be viewed as a throwaway pack-in game, but it's actually a great celebration of PlayStation. Team Asobi really put in so much effort, it took me by surprise. It really made the launch of the PS5 feel special. I remember the first time booting up every PlayStation console feeling new and exciting, not knowing what new adventures I'd be able to play on each system. But something about the PS5 didn't feel as special, considering the graphical jump we used to get between each console was so much higher, and the PS5 era feeling like more of the same, with follow-ups to PS4 games and nothing really new. But Astro's Playroom changed that. It reminded me of all the great experiences I've had, as well as being a great platformer. And even though it has all these cameos, it features a ton of new locations and environments to have fun in, and it's a great break from all the AAA story games Sony are known for. It made me a bit more optimistic about the future of games coming out of PlayStation. And honestly, with a few more levels and some added difficulty, I reckon Team Asobi could potentially make Astro's Playroom a full-on 3D platformer. Astro Bot really feels like the evolution of Team Asobi, from minigames to VR, a tech demo, and now a fully fledged first-party game, and it is a pure joy to play. Astro Bot features 6 galaxies, each taking the same amount of time as Astro's Playroom to complete, each featuring around 5 main levels as well as some fun little challenges. Each level has a unique theme for one another, as well as plenty of hidden secrets off the main path. The game also has even more unique power-ups compared to Astro's Playroom, some of my personal favourites being the sponge one. Absorbing water makes Astro huge and he's able to squeeze himself to douse enemies with water. or the mouse power-up. Basically, you're able to shrink to the size of a mouse and reach areas normally inaccessible, and even float on bubbles. Also, this power-up is never used again in the entire game, and Team Asobi didn't have to put in this much effort for one level, but I'm glad they did. At the end of each galaxy, you have a huge boss fight, and these have been repurposed from the VR game, and they are all excellent, feeling massive and over the top, and a throwback to an older style of gaming. The game also features the Great Master Challenges, being represented by the logos of the PlayStation buttons, and these are a true test of your platforming ability, really pushing you, and adding an extra hurdle of difficulty that was missing from Astro's Playroom. Overall, the game is a blast to play through, and in moments, reminds me of the joy I felt while playing Super Mario Galaxy. And in case you didn't know,
It's the best game ever!
but despite the amount of joy this game has provided, I can't deny that certain aspects of the experience left me feeling a little weird. Nostalgia is a little strange in current pop culture. To some, what might be a harmless venture in remembering old times can often feel like a mega corporation trying to sell you a product featuring characters you love to try and make a quick buck. And the core of Astro Bot is tied to the history of PlayStation, so sometimes it feels like it straddles the line between art and product.
Guys, the PS5 is a fucking spaceship.
In Astro Bot, the main collectible of the game are characters from PlayStation's past, and it can be fun to find these cute renditions of characters you love, despite the disconcerting feeling I get seeing the Team Eco characters flossing. But my main issue comes from the legacy levels you unlock at the end of each galaxy. The first and PS1 representative is Ape Escape, a great return to the game that introduced a DualShock controller to the world, and really makes me feel like Team Asobi want a crack at an Ape Escape game. The PS2 representative is God of War, but instead of recreating the original style, it's taking from the more modern PS4 era, which honestly makes this whole section feel like an ad for God of War Ragnarok. The PS3 representative is Uncharted, and this level does capture the fun vibe and set piece moments from the series. This made me feel some uncertainty going into the PS4 level, considering that we have now had 2 levels dedicated to modern Sony style games. Maybe they could pull a left turn and do a Bloodborne mission, or I don't know, maybe Knack or something. But the level actually ends up being Horizon, and aside from not really being a fan of that series, having 3 legacy levels all dedicated to games that are very similar left me feeling a little down, even though that is an accurate representation of what PlayStation is now. But I can't deny the absolute joy I felt playing the PSP level. The fact that one of these levels was such a loving recreation of Loco Roco, I couldn't help but smile and enjoy a simpler time. And something about this level felt different. It felt personal. And maybe that's because some of the people at Team Asobi might have a certain familiarity with this side of PlayStation. When Japan Studios got closed in 2021, a lot of the remaining developers got moved into Team Asobi. So a lot of these loving recreations are made by some of the people that helped bring them to life in the first place. Hence why this level hit me harder than any other. Seeing Astro Bot embrace this weird little PSP game that I'm sure quite a few of the modern audience haven't even played, made this feel like more than a game. It felt like getting a chance to hang out with some old friends I haven't seen in a while. And that goes for all the characters that appear in this game. And this might make you ask, would this game work for somebody that doesn't have a history with PlayStation? I think it would. In 2002, me and my brother were looking at the PS2 and thought, this is cool, but it doesn't have a handle. That Christmas, our parents got us the GameCube, and the first game we played was Super Smash Bros. Melee. And it was my first experience with a Nintendo game ever. I had never seen Mario, Link, Zelda, Donkey Kong, Samus, Kirby, or Ness.
I had seen Pikachu. This little fucker's inescapable.
And finding out that all these characters had their own games got me excited. Aside from being a great game, Melee was the gateway to get me to some of my favorite games of all time. And maybe Astro Bot can be that for some kid getting into games now. And at the end of the day, a PlayStation is just a box that plays video games. But I can't remember a time in my life when I didn't have one. Playing Dragon Ball games with my brother, the first time seeing the train in Uncharted 2, exploring the streets of Yharnam, becoming Solid Snake, fighting zombies in a mansion, falling through Hexaville, or even playing my first video game. Those memories are really important to me. And maybe Astro Bot is just a product, playing on my nostalgia. But as I kept playing, that feeling went away. Astro Bot gave me a chance to sit back and remember and have fun. And at the end of the day, that's all that really matters, right?